What can you say about Bryan? He was the NNAs, and in my mind, he still is the NNAs.
Bryan was the NNAs. He lived it, he loved it, most of the time. He babied it and fretted, okay, agonized over them.
Bryan n'était pas flamboyant, mais il était connaisseur, travaillant, engagé, rigoureux, professionnel et par-dessus tout respecté d'un océan à l'autre. Je n'ai jamais rencontré quelqu'un qui ne l'appréciait pas.
His excitement and respect for excellence in journalism was a very pure notion, so pure that those who he asked and encouraged to work with him all knew that you're working for Bryan. You're working for the things that were important to Bryan.
Above all, Bryan was a great friend and had great friends.
Bryan always used to call the day of the nominations coming out, and he'd congratulate us on the number that we'd got, and he'd talk a little bit about it. But I will never forget the day that Bryan called when we did not get any nominations. It was a really interesting call because he was so kind and he was so sorry, and it just showed to me really the kind of man that he was.
He was this wonderfully gentle, quiet person, unassuming, except during what I call the NNA season, when the awards would be entered in January and then right up until the gala in May, he would turn into this completely different person, worried, the weight of the world on his shoulders. Always thinking that something was going to go wrong. He prepared for every single possibility. And then once the last awards were over and we said goodnight at the gala, he'd flash that smile and he'd have a beer, and the old Bryan was back.
He was a worrywart, but nothing made him happier than a wee measure of Delwhinnie, listening to Petula Clark, and finding out that nominees came from all across the country and represented big and small papers.
Every year, he would fret over preparing the booklet and video for tonight's big show. Fret? Well, that's a bit of an understatement, more like agonize. He pored over every word he'd written and every sentence in the video, always on the alert for any misspelling or mispronunciation or the big mistake lurking somewhere in the booklet or on the screen. Yeah, sometimes a big mistake made it past Bryan, so we'd all settle him down and tell him everything was okay.
Bryan very much wanted to be here in Charlottetown. He talked a bit about retiring, that tonight would have been his last gala, but the NNAs were so much a part of him that he is here tonight in the event that is his legacy. We may not get everything right, but we tried, and I know he would understand.
He was very dear, very loyal, very goofy, and a great person to work with. Bryan will always be our friend.
I truly believe that the NNAs would not exist today if it weren't for Bryan Cantley.
He was, and always will be, the little man with a big heart.
There's a piece of him in all our hearts.